All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Sunday, April 14th. We have a jam-packed MLB slate to dive into in today's video. We're back from our little staycation, our trip there. We were in the hotel doing hotel videos for 2 days. Back to the normal grind now, so hopefully this sounds a little bit better, looks a little bit better, and we have all of the time in the world to go through each and every one of these games like we always do. I'm going to give you my lean on the side. I'll give you my lean on the total as we go through each and every one of these. I'll also give you any player props or any other plays that I like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye on the pinned comment. If you do want to fade me and do the opposite of my picks, all of my plays will be listed out in the pinned comment. In terms of last night, so right after a sweep, we followed up with a 1 and 2 day. Not the worst thing in the world. Jose Sari being the only one that comes through for us. Clark Schmidt, bad one there. I think he finished with, actually, I stopped checking when he had 6 strikeouts in like the 4th inning. Diamondbacks team total, a lot of what I liked there was kind of spot on, but they finished with 4. So it's an L. A 1 and 2 night, not going to kill us. Again, we swept 2 nights ago, so it's like, all right, deep breath. This isn't a big deal. Make sure you guys go ahead and get those daily dingers in the comments as well. If you know what the daily dinger is, all you have to use is hashtag daily dinger in the comments. List someone that you think is going deep today, and I'll pick someone at random that gets it correct and give you a shout out in the next video. But let's get rocking and rolling here. We're starting off with the Boston Red Sox taking on the LA Angels. Red Sox slightly favored in this one here. They're at -126. Angels right around the +110, +112 range. On the mound for the Angels is going to be Tyler Anderson, who has been pretty damn impressive this season, averaging 7 innings pitched, 0 ERA, .79 whip, FIP of 272, so good looks on him. Going up against Brian Bayo, who's definitely looked good at times to start the year, but not necessarily as consistent as our guy Anderson here. So Brian Bayo on the season, 5.1 ERA, 5.1 innings pitched, 4.1 ERA with a 1.11 whip. So again, it's not terrible, but I do think we have a clear pitching edge here just based on how they have been playing. If you were to not tell me the stats and just tell me the player, I'd probably say Bayo, and you guys know I'm kind of a big Bayo guy. I'd probably say he has an edge, but so far, not so good when it comes to what these two guys have actually produced this season. From a batting perspective, I also think that there's a pretty close similarity between both these teams. Red Sox going up against the lefty, Angels going up against the righty, so not the biggest of discrepancies there, but when you get to the bullpen arms, this Red Sox bullpen is 10 times better than this Angels bullpen, and that is like should be a fact, you know what I mean, like unreally refutable. And they should have their main guys, Martin and Jensen out there too. I guess Winkowski, Weissart, and Rodriguez being the only arms that we'd probably have to worry about not going today. But again, not the biggest deal. So if we're to talk about this from an edge perspective, which we do have built out in our dashboard, right? Strong pitching edge. You can see right around here, we have our little gauges. Strong pitching edge. This is all like an algorithm that we built. Strong pitching edge to LA. Slight edge to Boston in the hitting spot, but really very, very similar, but strong pitching edge in the bullpen when it comes to the arms of the bullpen for the Red Sox. So I could see a case being made for both sides here, but for plus money, you're getting the better pitcher. I think I'm going to lean towards the Angels in this spot, to be completely honest. From a total perspective, 9.5. It's a little bit too high for me, especially if I'm making my initial judgment and basing it on pitching. So I'm going to lean slightly towards the under, but I don't think we pull the trigger on that. And then from a player prop perspective, this is a tough one because the pitcher isn't a strikeout guy. I just kind of gassed up Anderson, right? But he's not necessarily the biggest strikeout guy. He hasn't hit this line in his 2 starts this season, but I don't mind his over 5.5 strikeouts for plus money. Right now, you can get that for plus 114 over on FanDuel. Most sportsbooks have that right around -105. So you're getting plus money for a bet that is minus odds on most books. The Red Sox striking out the second most against left-handed pitchers, so I guess that's good there. But like I said, Anderson doesn't strike out too many guys, but that line and that price may be something worth considering. So keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we pull trigger on that. Next up, we have Baltimore taking on Milwaukee. Corbin Burns on the mound for Baltimore. Colin Rea on the mound for Milwaukee. Both guys off to a decent start this season. Corbin Burns is going to be, I think, in my opinion, where the edge is in this game from a pitching perspective. Like he kind of, I'd take him over Colin Rea any day of the week. Both bullpens looking okay. Baltimore's definitely starting to kind of separate themselves, but I'd say both these bullpens top bullpens, somewhat top bullpens in the league, definitely above average. Milwaukee, though, actually probably does have the batting edge here. Both pitchers are righties here. Milwaukee against right-handed batters, batting 300 on the season. That's good enough for second best against righties in the league when it comes to average. Second best WRC plus, OPS second best, slugging percentage second best. So I do think that this is a spot in which Burns is going to have his work cut out for him, which is, I guess, cool to even think about, because he gets to face his old team. But I'm gonna side on the side of, I guess, offense in this game. So instead of really digging down and digging my heels into a side here, I do think that there's gonna be some runs scored. And the total's at 8.5. I think it's because we have two good pitchers on the mound, but we can't forget about how good these offenses are, especially the way Milwaukee's hitting righties right now. So Burns could even have a good outing and still could let up, 3 runs, maybe 4 runs, which should be a floor, if we get a couple more, some, an error or something like that to allow a few more to come in. I think I'm gonna lean towards the over. Now, I'll keep you guys updated in the pinned comment if we roll with the over for the full game or the over for the first 5, because I do think that both these pitchers are good, but the bullpens are also good. I don't want these bats to get kind of taxed throughout the game, so we'll see where we end up with there, but I do think that they're, the books clearly with an 8.5 total believe in the pitching here, and I understand it, but I just don't think that you can really, dispute the way that both these offenses honestly have looked, so far this season. So I'm going to lean towards the over. If I had a gun to my head and I had a side, I think I'd trust Corbin Burns over, the Milwaukee offense. So I guess I'll lean towards Baltimore, but that price at minus 190 is not exactly all that great. So I do think that, obviously the odds makers are looking at Corbin Burns saying, yeah, that's the swayer there. In terms of player props here, Adley Rutschman over 1.5 bases might be something that I can get behind here. He's done that. He just hit a home run last game, so it's like, all right, maybe he's feeling it. He has done it on the season here in 6 of his 13 games, so kind of hit or miss, but going up against a lefty, or excuse me, a righty, I do think that this could be a good spot for him. Just overall, I mean, the way that Colin Rea pitches against left-handed batters is a lot different. Average jumps over 250. That's up 20 points from Norman's ERA jumps up over 2, which is kind of crazy. Extra base hit percentage also jumps to the nearly 50% mark. So I do think it's a good spot. And he's going to throw sinkers, which Rutschman does have some success against. Next up, we got Philadelphia taking on Pittsburgh here so far in this series. Pittsburgh's lost 2 of them, so it's been a 2-1 lead so far in this series for Philadelphia. Today, they have Zach Wheeler on the mound, going up against Pittsburgh's Mitch Keller. Zach Wheeler, clearly the better pitcher in this spot. I think Zach Wheeler, I've said it time and time again for almost like 2 years now, one of the most underrated guys in the league. He's like a guy that always has a really good FIP, and sometimes the ERA gets up, and it's like, FIP's technically more telling because it takes fielding out of it for pitchers. But overall, I do think that this is going to be a struggle to get there for Philadelphia if you are on Philadelphia's side, because of how sort of abysmal the offense has been on the season. 4th worst average against right-handed pitchers, 2nd worst WRC plus, 4th worst on base percentage, 5th worst OPS. Like, it's just not a good offense. But to be fair to them, and I guess, against Pittsburgh here, like, Pittsburgh's offense has not looked very good in this series. So maybe offense isn't what gets the job done in this game. Now, can you pay 178? That's also a big price tag, but I'm going to trust Zach Wheeler, trust the Phillies, and lean towards them here. In terms of a total, excuse me, I'm going to lean towards the under here as well. Not necessarily to back Wheeler and Mitch Keller, but to kind of fade the bats in this spot, I think. All right, guys, before we move on to the rest of the slate, why don't you guys go ahead and check out Sleeper. That link is going to be in the pinned comment. You can get these 2 squares right now. They're both basketball squares. I know we're talking baseball here, but 2 discounted lines over there right now. And if you use the link in the pinned comment and sign up and deposit, they're going to match your first deposit. So go check it out. All you have to do, it's a player prop app. You put more, 2 or more plays in a slip, and then the more you win, the more you get paid out. It's really, really cool. I've been using Sleeper for over a year now, so go ahead and try it, guys. Use that link in the pinned comment. 100% of your first deposit matched. Let's go ahead and jump back into the games here. Toronto taking on Colorado. The odds kind of speak for themselves here too. Minus 245 in this spot here. Toronto favored, obviously. Barrios going up against Freeland. Freeland, might as well call him like free wins, because I can never seem to get behind this guy. I think the last time they pitched that they did end up winning, but I'm not gonna give him too much credit for that. So far in this series, Colorado has actually stolen one. I think that's the most that they take here in Canada. So I'm gonna lean towards Toronto in this spot, but it's got to be some sort of a parlay throw in, because I just cannot. I mean, mean, it doesn't even make sense. If you know anything about sports betting, taking something alone as a single play at minus 245, you might as well not take it at all, because that ROI is not worth the risk of these being two professional baseball teams and one can win at any given moment, right? So I'll lean towards them. I don't really love it on the run line overall, but, you know, both these games have been decided by more than 2 or more runs so far in this series. So maybe that is worth pulling the trigger on, because you can get better odds in that spot there. In terms of the total, we're looking at 8.5 here. I'm going to give it a slight lean towards the under. I don't necessarily think the bats on Colorado are going to come to play against Barrios. Surprisingly, the bats have actually looked okay against right-handed pitchers this year, but I'm kind of backing Barrios, who's at a 1.5 ERA with a 1.12 whip through his first few starts here this season. All right, Detroit taking on Minnesota. I do think that this is a pretty seemingly messy one, to be honest, so don't love this game overall, but I do think we have a spot which we like, which is going to be Detroit on the money line. They have Jack Flaherty going up against Bailey Ober, both righties. Flaherty has definitely had his good and bad days as a pitcher, and definitely to start the year here as well. I mean, he pitched on opening day, or his first start of the year against Chicago, looked okay, and then he looked terrible against Oakland. So it's like, all right, what do we want from him, right? Like he's looking decent other than that Oakland start, and then I say that out loud, and it's like, well, yeah, he only has one other start this season, so where's the excuse, right? But he's going up against Bailey Ober, who has had just as big of a blow-up already this seaseason. That Kansas City sort of starting point of people being like, oh, Kansas City, okay, look at those bats. He let up 8 runs through, was it 5 outs? Something like that. 8 runs through 5 outs, 9 hits, 3 home runs, like, he didn't really look all that great. He did end up bouncing back against a good Dodgers team, so give him a little bit of credit there, but same thing. Okay, there's not the biggest of sample size for both these teams. So I think I end up turning to the bats here, which it's crazy as Minnesota's offense looked okay, in these couple of games in this series, but Detroit has the more consistent offense. I don't think Bailey Ober's going to have, much over them or anything like that. So I'm going to lean towards looking at the Detroit Tigers here in this spot. It's pretty much a pick 'em. You're getting them at minus 106. Again, pretty much a pick 'em. So decent odds. And yeah, I just don't really see Bailey Ober having the best track record here or chance of pitching well against this Tigers team. Whereas Jack Flaherty, small sample size here, but 21 plate appearances against this Minnesota Twins current roster, 211 average, 252 WOBA, 30% K rate. Like, maybe he's got a little something there against these guys. So give me Detroit here, but I think I'm also going to lean towards the under. Like, I don't think either one of these teams pulls away with it or anything like that. And just to be completely honest, like I said, I'm leaning because of the Tigers' bats, I think, are a little bit more consistent, but both these bats against right-handed pitchers have not been it this season whatsoever. Mets taking on Kansas City. Jose Butto on the mound for the Mets, going up against Cole Ragans, who I feel like I kind of was a naysayer about how good he was even last year, even to start the year, but starting to come around on the lefty here. I definitely don't like Jose Butto, to be honest. Butto, whatever you want to call it, might as well call him Jose Butt. So I'm going to give the pitching edge to Ragans here, even though, Butto looked good in his first start this season, going up against Detroit. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts, 3 walks, 15 pitches per inning. Like, you can't really knock that, but we know this guy, and I don't really believe in him to be that great of a pitcher. So I do think that this is a pitching edge there. When it comes to hitting, we'll flash up the dashboard. By the way, guys, link for this is going to be in the pinned comment as well. For now, it's completely free to everybody. I think at some point we'll, give it to the ballers, the channel members here who pay $2.99 a month for extra support and extra stuff, like this being one of them. So for now, go check it out, see if it helps you out. And then if it does, when we do decide to make it a members only play, you'll know if it's going to be worth the $2.99 a month. But it definitely is worth it, in my opinion, based on how much we put into this. But if you look at our algo charts here, the Mets offense crushing lefties here. So I am, if we get to the Kansas City side here, which is going to be my lean, I don't know if we make the play, like right away, because of the fact that these bats on the Mets side have been crushing lefties. So good for them. But I like Kansas City, but it's crazy to see this all the way almost fully up in terms of what the algorithm thinks of these Mets bats against lefties. So it's kind of scary to say, hey, I'm going to lean towards Kansas City, but I am going to back a pitcher that I think is a lot better than Butto, and hopefully he can kind of suppress those Mets bats, because that's really giving them the edge here in this spot. From a total perspective, I've seen a lot of people liking the over today, which makes me feel like I'm missing something because, again, I'm believing in Raggins in this spot. So I'm going to lean under, but just note that I've seen all over Twitter and stuff already last night and then early this morning. People really do seem to like this over because of what the offenses have been doing. All right, next up, we got Tampa Bay taking on Blake Snell and the San Francisco Giants here. Armstrong on the mound for Tampa Bay. I'm not a big Armstrong guy. He pitched one inning. He is more of like an opener guy anyway, so it's tough to be a big Armstrong guy, so that doesn't even matter. But he pitched so far once this season in terms of starting. 1 inning, 2 runs, only one of them being earned, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Not much to go over stats-wise from him. We do have something to talk about with Blake Snell, though. In his first start of this season, 3 innings pitched, but I believe he was on, he didn't pitch very well, but I don't think he got yanked because of that necessarily. I think he was on a pitch count, if I'm not mistaken, coming back from that. So I think, 3 innings pitched, 3 runs, 3 of them earned, 5 Ks. Pretty impressive through those, but we know he's a strikeout guy. But not the best start, I guess, so far for him, but also not the worst. Like, you didn't really expect him to come in and necessarily shove, right? So I do think that, I'm trusting him. I don't know if he's still on a pitch count. So for this one, I'm going to lean towards San Francisco, but it'd probably be some sort of a first 5 or, honestly, crazy enough, maybe even like a first 3 money line type play in this spot, just because we know at least we could probably get, based on last time, 3 innings out of Snell. I'll try and see if I can find if there's any thing about him being on another pitch clock or something like that, because that would obviously impact it. But yeah, give me them on the first 3. In terms of the total in this spot, obviously you have 2 offenses that have the makings to be able to hit well, but not really hitting well either of them. Like, both teams kind of middle of the pack against righties. So for San Francisco going up against Armstrong as a righty, plenty of other factors to come in when it comes to their bullpen. But then Tampa Bay going up against lefties, like a lot of good bats in this lineup, but not really striking it well against lefties here so far to start the year. So I'm going to lean towards the under in this spot. It kind of scares me to lean towards the under, because we do look at a Tampa Bay team that's going to go Armstrong and then bullpen. But, overall, their bullpen here, pretty much everybody is good to go, which is obviously how they start this, with a reliever starting, opening the game, and then having, fair play at their bullpen. But overall, makes it a little bit worrisome to not be able to count on, I guess that's how it's summarized, to not be able to count on a stud for like 4 or 5 innings and taking an under, you know what I mean? But I'll lean towards the under here. All right, Miami taking on Atlanta here. Luzardo on the bump for Miami, going up against Charlie Morton. Luzardo I do like as a pitcher, but it's kind of been tough to say that he's good so far this year, right? In 3 starts, he's kind of gotten worse and worse. In fact, like he literally has, not kind of. So tough there, going up against an Atlanta offense too, which is obviously going to be a tough team to bet against. So for this one, I almost started, like when I started researching this game, started to want to say, okay, let's get on the Miami side, because I do like Luzardo, but it just did not start to make sense, right? Like Morton's, he had a bad start last time out, but better pitcher so far this season. Obviously, the better offense goes to Atlanta, and then Miami's bullpen is just abysmal. So any way you want to cut this up, I think signs do point towards Atlanta, especially coming off of a loss. Like, I think that they bounce back in a good way. So I'm going to lean towards Atlanta. Probably also consider their over in team total, as well as taking a peek at the over in the entire game. It's not necessarily back in Charlie Morton, though. Like, I do like Charlie Morton, but this isn't a spot in which I'm saying that he's going to dwarf Miami's offense. I think Miami could have, a few runs put in here. That's why I like the game total overall. I just can't see how Atlanta doesn't get to Luzardo and overall. Batting, they're the 10th best average against lefties to start the year, 9th in isolated power, 12th in OPS, 13th in slugging, compared to 25th, 20th, 19th on the Miami side versus righties. So there's just such an offensive discrepancy here, and they clearly are waiting for some runs. What did they score? 1 or 2 runs in their last game? Atlanta did? 1 run yesterday against Miami. Like, there's got to be some runs in the tank there. Next up, we have Logan Allen for the Cleveland Guardians taking on Nestor Cortez here for the New York Yankees. This is a spot in which I thought it was going to be kind of a look at New York all day long, like no way to even consider Cleveland, based on one, I guess you could say this series, based on how New York's been playing, and based on how Cleveland's been playing. But overall, like, there are a few lanes to get to Cleveland. That being said, not enough for me to pull the trigger, so I do think I'm backing, Cortez and the Yankees today. But Cleveland, I'd say obviously a better bullpen than the Yankees. Bullpen for the Yankees, not a problem, but Cleveland better bullpen. And then when you look at Cleveland batting against left-handed pitchers here, third in average, fifth in WRC plus, third in on-base percentage, top 10 in OPS. Like, there is an angle of saying this could be a good spot to pull the trigger on Cleveland at good odds here because, yes, the Yankees are absolutely crushing and playing really good baseball, but to be able to get, plus 115 on, plus 114 odds, something like that, like, could be a spot for Cleveland. Not enough for me to get there, but I'm just kind of telling you the facts here. Like, again, they bat lefties well. Cortez against them, he does have a few plate appearances against some of these current guys. 47 plate appearances, 186 average, 151 expected at batting average against, 6.4 walk rate, and a 28% K rate. So once I saw that, I was like, fine, like it's not enough for me to get there. And Cortez looked pretty good this season, right? 3.5 ERA, but a FIP at 3.16, a WHIP at 1.06. Going up against Logan Allen, who is a good pitcher, but kind of off to a mediocre start in terms of his cumulative stats for the season here. He did have a good start against Seattle, but the two surrounding that against Oakland and then against the White Sox, which aren't the best of teams, right? He didn't really look all that great. So edge pitching for New York, edge batting probably to Cleveland, and then bullpen-wise, Cleveland also has the edge. So again, if you like Cleveland here, this could be a good spot. It's just I can't get over those Cortez stats against Cleveland current players in 47 appearances. He's looked pretty good, pretty damn good against them. In terms of the total, I also I'm gassing up the offense and everything like that, but I think that this is an under type of a game. Both pitchers are good enough to be able to trump good batting, and we know the Yankees are batting well. We know Cleveland bats lefties well after I just said that, but I'm thinking both pitchers go out there and give us a solid, 5 innings plus, meaning there's not going to be much time to score runs here, and then even in the back half of the game, like, these bullpens should be pretty damn good, so I'm trusting the defense, trusting the arms in this one over the bats. Houston taking on the Rangers here, and usually when Eovaldi's on the mound, I don't really even have to look at the odds or the side or anything like that, so I do like Texas. I just think Eovaldi's such a bet-on type of a pitcher. He's off to a good start this season. Track record against Houston's okay, right? Honestly, like, he's obviously had some tough starts against them, but that's back to last year in the playoffs, and they were a really good team last year, obviously. Javier, I think we saw a little bit out of it in that last start against Kansas City. I think is due for a little bit of regression. Prior to that game, he hadn't let up a run all year long, was striking guys out. I think that this is going to be, the best offense that he's seen so far. And he's already faced, New York, Toronto, Kansas City, but this Texas offense, like, I know no one is sleeping on them, but don't sleep on this Texas offense, especially after how they looked in that Oakland series, and then even, I would say to start this series, but they scored 1 million runs in game number 1, but even from yesterday's game, right? So it's like, I look at this and I say, okay, this should be a Texas spot. They are on the road, but, going up against, again, Christian Javier, who is a righty pitcher here, Texas, 4th in average, 3rd in WRC plus, K percentage at 2, walk rate at 4. These are ranks in the league. OBP on base percentage 3, OPS 5th. So they're obviously, should be able to tag a guy who I also believe has a little regression coming. And then Houston, their offense is really good. In fact, I'll just fast up the dashboard here. So what we're looking at ranks, right? This should be a really good offense. But I think Eovaldi has such an edge pitching-wise here that all these green rankings kind of come back down to earth. And it's like, oh, yeah, we can bat right-handed pitchers really well, but can we bat an elite right-handed arm like Eovaldi? We'll see. So give me the Texas Rangers here on the money line. Also, you're getting decent value for them for sure at plus 100 or plus 102 actually on FanDuel right now. Like, Rangers with Eovaldi on the mound for plus money, I don't think is ever a dumb bet. In terms of what we're looking at from a total perspective, I think Eovaldi shoves. I do think the Rangers put up some runs, so I almost want to lean towards the over. I think this may get to double digits based on just the two offenses, but we may look at like a Rangers team total or something like that. Once we get to the bullpen for both of these teams, there should be some runs that come in late. So if we play Texas, we might just back Eovaldi and go first 5 money line. But if we take the over, we're probably going to go full game over because we hope to get to the bullpen in a sense. White Sox taking on Cincinnati. Michael Soroka on the mound. Kind of getting to a point of nearly auto fade for me. With Graham Ashcraft on the other side of things. So far to start the year, Soroka, 6.14 ERA, 1.6 whip, a FIP of 6.5. Not that Graham Ashcraft has looked all that great. FIP of 5.19, ERA of 5.4. But there's a huge discrepancy offense-wise in this spot here, too, especially going up against right-handed pitchers. So, we've seen so far this series, it's a Cincinnati series all day long. It's probably going to be the way that we lean in this spot as well. To make it a little bit I don't want to say safer, but probably a more playable bet. We'd probably look at Cincinnati on the first 5 like we have a couple times in this series, just due to the fact that, I don't care about the fact that, we're looking at we're looking at a Soroka side of things or Cincinnati's offense that's way better. That Cincinnati bullpen ain't it, you know what I mean? Like they've looked a little bit better, but kind of with cupcake competition, I still cannot trust that Cincinnati bullpen. So first 5 are nothing for me in this spot. When it comes to a total, I think that there's not enough, really not enough evidence with either of these guys on the mound or anything like that to pull trig on an under. So I'm going to lean towards the over. All right, Oakland taking on Washington. This is definitely not one of my most favorite games on the slate here, but we have Alex Wood on the mound for Oakland going up against Trevor Williams. Alex Wood, not looking great to start the year. 3 starts here, 4.1 pitches, 4 1/3 average innings pitched, over an 8 ERA with a whip nearly of 2. Going up against Trevor Williams, 2.6 ERA, 1.06 whip with a 3.31 FIP. So good on him. Both these offenses absolutely trash versus, Washington versus a lefty like Alex Wood, Oakland versus a righty like Trevor Williams. So not giving them any credit offensively here, and I just don't really see an angle how you can. So I guess I'm just going to pick the pitcher that's been better and ride with that, which kind of works out because you're getting plus 150 in odds for Nationals. So I'll lean towards that. I just don't see a bunch of runs in this game. So if that's the case and the bats aren't going to be the determining factor, then just give me the better pitcher, which I don't even know if you would say Trevor Williams is the better pitcher, right? Just he's been pitching better. So yeah, I'll lean in that direction. In terms of where this series is at so far, they've already split and they've been low scoring games. So I think this is a play for the under as well in this spot. And then player prop wise, I do think that this could be an interesting look for I guess it's not player props. This could be a interesting look to kind of take a peek at. We like the under overall, but also just an under in the first 5, first 5, due to the fact that, we know these bats are that bad, but the pitching's so bad that I think we're going to get good odds for taking an under in the first 5, right? Because all the numbers and everything you look at, especially with Alex Wood's ERA, like that's going to inflate a line. So we'll see what we can get. I don't have it up in my notes in front of me, but taking an under in the first 5 may pay off a little bit better than looking at an under for the full game. But overall, I still like the under here. And like I said, Washington to some degree because of that plus money. All right, Seattle taking on the Cubs here. On the mound for the Cubs is Javier Carne Asada going up against Luis Castillo. So yeah, you hear those names and it's like, oh well, Castillo and the Mariners obviously are going to have the pitching edge here. Not really. Like Castillo's been shaky to say the least to start the season. Assad has looked okay. Seattle does have a bullpen edge. I would give him that, but this offense against right-handed pitchers, like I don't know if Google Sheets gets any more red than that. Like that is absolutely crazy. Second to last in average, last in WRC plus, last in K rate, last in on base, last in OPS, last in slugging, second to last in ISO. Like, damn, how do you back Seattle here in this spot? You hear Luis Castillo, it's like the sexy name, a nice hard-throwing righty, but you look at his stats, there doesn't really make much sense. So I think it's going to be Cubs all day long for me, which is surprising in a sense due to the fact that, they're plus 124, plus 124 are the odds for the Cubs money line. So yeah, I said little surprise here, but I can't get to the Seattle side of things whatsoever. In terms of the total, I'm also going to take a peek at the under because if this is a spot in which I don't know how Seattle, technically scores runs, then why would I even consider an over, right? So give me the under in this spot as well. Maybe even a spot in which we can consider Assad's, over in innings just because of what we've been looking at here. Like maybe Seattle doesn't tag him. Maybe he doesn't have to throw that many pitches, that type of thing. So maybe we consider him in over in innings. All right, Arizona taking on St. Louis. We did have a bet on this yesterday. It was Arizona's team total over 4.5. They finished at 4. So end up losing that one, but not the biggest deal in the world. Today on the mound for Arizona, looking at Zach Gallen up against Miles Mikolas. You got to give Gallen the edge there for sure. Off to a decent start here, 2.25 ERA, a FIP of under 2 at 1.97, a whip of 1.19, striking out nearly 30% of batters here in this spot as well. So I think there's a clear-cut edge there, undeniable. And he has a decent track record against current guys on this Cardinals roster. That being said, if I were to weigh that information that much, you could actually make the argument that Miles Mikolas has a way better track record against some of these current Diamondbacks. So both guys should be okay today in terms of the starting pitching. So it's going to be a spot where I like Diamondbacks, but I also like the under, maybe a first 5 under, because both of these two pitchers should, based on their track record against current guys and based on the offenses versus right-handed pitchers, like walk rate and K rate are the only two stellar categories for Arizona, so far this year. 9th worst when it comes to batting average. So both these starting pitchers should be okay. I'll back Arizona and also consider the under, maybe the under in the first 5, but I don't really think that these bullpens are just kind of middle of the pack. So it's not like I'm afraid of them, but not really a bank on or bet on type bullpen either. So probably under first 5, but I'll take Arizona on the money line. I'm going to trust Gallen over Mikolas. All right, last game of the slate. I do believe there could be some weather in this spot. I think I saw that on Twitter earlier. But nonetheless, James Paxton going against Yu Darvish here. In terms of what we've seen from these guys this year, Yu Darvish, I don't want to say has been all over the map because that wouldn't really be fair, but he's had good starts, has bad starts. Already faced this LA team in Korea, right, and had a pretty good start. Paxton, on the other hand, has been definitely all over the map. First start looks good through 5, right? Then has a mediocre start and only let up 2 runs through 6 innings, so it looks pretty good. But that was during a time in which Minnesota's offense was just that was their last series, and Minnesota's offense was kind of gross, and yet they still got to him through 6. So I don't know exactly which pitcher I would give the edge to or trust here, but I know there's a clear-cut offense that looks pretty good, and that's going to be the Dodgers. That being said, -172, probably not a price that I'm willing to pay here. But in terms of this series, I could see this being a Dodgers winning 2 out of 3 series, which was what it would be if they take this game. So I'll lean towards them. Maybe it's a money line play. I almost wanted to get to Yu Darvish, but just looking into it, I don't think the numbers really, get there for me. He has had some good success against these Dodgers players in the lineup, but just not enough that I've seen so far this year to kind of predict it in a sense, and that's what we're trying to do here, right? So give me the Dodgers. I almost reluctantly say that because I wanted to get to the Padres for the money. And then in terms of the total, I'm going to lean towards the over. I think there's enough bats in both lineups, especially in this Dodgers lineup, that they can probably get to double digits today. So I'm going to lean towards the over. And guys, it's going to wrap for today's show. If you guys made it this far into the video, comment 31, because these baseball videos are a grind, man. I love talking baseball and everything like that, but every day, pretty much every team plays, you know what I mean, except for Thursdays, which is usually a getaway day. But now we have MLB to record right after this. So yeah, we're grinding right now. Go ahead and comment 31 if you made it this far. Appreciate you if you did, and I'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.